Welcome to Elevating La Cultura podcast, a space where I talk with Latinas who are passionate about what they do and are willing to share that passion with others to change the narrative, especially for the next generation. Each season is centered around different topics, but all with a Latina perspective. Welcome to Season 7. I'm so excited to share these stories and hope they will offer encouragement, wisdom, and be something that you can relate to. So vámonos, and let's get into it. Hola! Today I'm talking with the famous Gita. You've heard me mention her in other episodes with her growing co-working group. Gita Zuleta is a proud daughter of Salvadorian and Mexican immigrants, born and raised in LA. She is a cafecito lover, plants mom, and wife to her best friend and business partner. She's a brand strategist and photographer specializing in helping jefas grow their brand's online presence through strategic systems and intentional images. She is also a community builder, creating a safe space for jefas to connect, co-work, and support each other as they pursue individual goals together. It's called Cafecito Con Jefas, and she's launching a podcast with the same name where she'll have conversations about real life and entrepreneurship. I'm excited to get into all of that, so please enjoy our conversation. Hello, I am beyond excited to introduce this week's guest. I am here with Gita, which you have probably heard in previous podcasts, and you will hear in the coming podcast that I have met a lot of the guests this season through Gita's co-working hour, through the We All Grow, and then also like through her co-working. And so I am getting to talk to the Gita today, and I can't wait to get into your story and what has brought you to creating this network that has just been growing and growing. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, as you mentioned, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the invitation. It just means so much. And I'm so excited that you got to meet other jefas through that space and you're able to feature their stories. I just think that's an amazing thing. It's one thing that I love about podcasts and makes me excited about my own that's upcoming. So I'll talk about a little bit about me. I am Gita Zuleta, which is short for Jessica, or Jessiquita, mejor dicho. And so I am a brand photographer and strategist based out of LA. And my photography career started 8 years ago, working within like the political world, doing the branding campaigns for them and like doing a lot of their events and community just documenting what it is that they need, which in the end was the branding imagery for their campaigns. And so there was a lot of hands on learning when it came to how to present them as personal brands. And that's not necessarily the world that I am passionate about as much as I learned so much and was in that world for maybe about 5 years or so. Grateful for the experience and the work that came my way through it. My heart is with small business owners. And when I first started, I started my business alongside my husband. And when we were first starting, we didn't get any guidance necessarily. And so that's where my passion is being able to teach small business owners, specifically female small business owners who I lovingly call jefas. And so that's who I like to work with. And I'm passionate creating the imagery that they need to be able to show up online and make it easier to show up online in that way. And then also being able to help them with the strategy bit and being able to say, okay, let's show up on social media this way. As I'm sure you're aware of, as photographers, we've had to ride this social media wave for a really long time on how to show up. And I've just had a lot of jefas come to me over the past year and a half, just needing to figure out what their brand is and what it means to show up as a brand. And so that has been a big part of my work, especially these past 2 years. But also now, as you mentioned, I have started cultivating a community, and that community is called Cafecito Con Jefas. And what I really desire most out of that community is to help remove the loneliness that comes with being an entrepreneur. And so many of us are pursuing our dreams from our own little corners of the internet and own corners of the world. And so being able to come together in a virtual room to like just have that support system and have people cheer you on for the little things that happens behind the scenes is just so incredibly important to me, because that was something that was very lacking for myself throughout the beginnings of my entrepreneurial journey. And so that's what my passion is when it comes to the community that I'm cultivating, and creating that co-working space has just been a really great tool to be able to bring people together. And so I just love the space. I love the women that show up. I mean, I think I say it every week. It wouldn't be a community without everyone who does show up. And so I'm just really grateful to be able to host and have all these women come through. But every single one that has come through is really out to change the world, if not in a macro level and even in a micro level within their own community and their homes, and really just changing how they live their lives. And it's just so motivating to hear all of the different stories of each one of us pursuing our dreams. And so that's a little bit about me when it comes to my work. And with this community that I've been cultivating, I now want to also join the podcasting world and lifting more stories up to be able to just really learn from each other. I feel like that's also lacking, is just gaining wisdom when it comes to the entrepreneurial worlds. There's so many podcasts that are out there to teach, and it's like, I'm over here with my multi-million dollar business and let me show you how to get here and let me tell you all the steps. And I'm over here like, I'm still in it, I'm still in the struggle, we're still building, but let's learn from each other and be able to share the little bits that we have learned along the way. So that's just a little bit about me, and that podcast is coming out next month. So that's what I'm working on, and a little bit about my journey, I guess.
I love how the community in general has been something that I think we have come to realize that is a real need, especially the past few years where we were kind of cut off from our day-to-day community and day-to-day interactions. And now we are being more intentional about finding community virtually. And a lot of us are in a transition period and trying to seek the different communities that can help pour into the individual needs, like that we find ourselves either transitioning to or wanting to be more a part of. So I do like listening to your story. I am reminded that we first met through another community, which I had Monica on from Our Latina Lens on episode 75. And we met through her community because I was a part of hers, because I wanted to be around other Latina and Latina photographers. And I always get so excited when I meet other Latina or Latina photographers, because when I was starting out, it was just me. Like, I didn't have anyone that I could share my lived experiences with. And like you said, everyone was seemingly gaining this success by following some sort of system that worked for everyone else, but not me. And so it wasn't until I started connecting with people who understood my experience that I was like, okay, let me rethink how to do this. Let me start over. Let me think about this in a different way that is more true to the network that I have, the access that I have, because I realized it was a limited access compared to my counterparts. And I get excited. Well, when she launched the Our Latina Lens, I think she reached out to me. And so I have been going whenever I can make it and meeting new photographers. And then when I met you and you said, I have this co-working, we get together every week, I was like, yes, I am there. And every week I feel like I see similar faces. And even with you, I feel like I see you every week and I feel like I know you. But this is like the first time that we are, well, I guess the second time that we are like getting to really sit down and talk. So I love this community building because it does make us feel like we're not alone. Even if we have never met in person or had like a one-on-one meeting, we're getting together and seeing people regularly. We're hearing about what they do, what they're excited about. I know today there were a lot of people sharing wins and like what they are excited about. And it was just really encouraging to be like, I feel like we're all growing together and we're all cheering each other on. So I just want to say, like, I have been trying to invite people and say, like, oh, you should join this co-working thing. It's virtual. Like, we just get together for an hour and then you can introduce yourself. And I'm trying to get more people from my network to join in on
Oh, thank
your
you.
community. So
That's so
hopefully, little by
amazing.
little, we'll keep growing.
No, absolutely. And you know what? I think that is one, thanks to Monica for bringing us together as well. And what's great is that I actually had the opportunity to connect with Monica in real life. Um, I want to say it was a week ago. Like, and we've been virtual friends for a little over a year now. And so it's so true, especially after that time we all were forced inward and locked in, right? Like, and we went through this pandemic, which was totally life changing, and really seeking out that virtual community and realizing it is possible to connect with people online. And there are real people on the other side of this Instagram account. It's not just like, yes, it's heavily curated, yes, it's not all instant, and it may not be fully real life, but there is still real people that pour into these pages, pour into these businesses, pour into whatever content that's out there. And so it is really encouraging to just have so many women show up and be able to just support each other. And hearing all of these wins, it's absolutely right what you're saying. And obviously, as the host, I've had the privilege to be able to see quite a few people who have been coming from the beginning, and they're like, we're regulars now, and I'm like, yes, I love that. Like, that's an exciting thing for people, because I'm just so excited to be able to witness that growth and be able to participate, even if it's just as cheerleader, and even if it's just in congratulations and welcome and we're here to support you. Like, that's all it's about, really. And I absolutely love it, and I'm just honored to have so many women feeling safe in that space and wanting to join and wanting to share about it. So thank you. Thank you so much for wanting to spread the word. I just want to be able to uh, share that joy with other people as well.
It really is a beautiful thing to feel like you're part of a community that is growing and excited for you as an individual and then excited for the community as a whole. Um, I'd love to hear your story on what brought you to brand photography. Like, what inspired you to build your business?
I touched on my road to brand photography a little bit in my intro. One of the things I forgot to say in my introduction is that I am a proud daughter of immigrants. My father is from El Salvador, my mother's from Mexico, and I am married 9 years, and I'm a plantitas mom. And so when it comes to my work, as I mentioned in the beginning, my passion now is really just to share the knowledge that I do have to Jefas to be able to be able to close that gap. And when it comes to brand photography in my career, yes, I mostly was in that political world for a while, but as a photographer, I also, did weddings and did events and birthday parties and family portraits and, graduation parties and backyard parties, any gig that came your way. It's like, yes, I can take your picture. And so when the pandemic hit, And we were very event heavy. We were very doing community events and weddings, and my husband was getting into like shooting for the LA Galaxy and LAFC, and so very big gathering events right when the pandemic hit. And so as the pandemic shut everything down, our business shut down as well. And so and we were at the time we're living with, not only is my husband immunocompromised, we had other, like my elderly parents and an uncle, so very much so we had to just kind of stay indoors and in our bubble. And so that really got us thinking, how is it that we want to come back when it's time for us to come back? And uh, we have a love for branding when it comes to really just how to show up online, educating, showing up as a brand and what that means. And when we looked at how we were branding ourselves, it was always a struggle for us to show up. And I say us again because I started my business with my husband, and my husband and I creatively are black and white. Like his office is quite literally painted black, and it's gold and blue and green LED lights. And I'm over here with my pink chair and plantitas everywhere and very, very girly. And so when we were really thinking about our branding, you know, we have the same initials. So it was JZ squared, and our colors were black and white. And it was just very like simple. But our portfolio, when we were marketing ourselves, was from music videos to nighttime street photography to fire breathers to then weddings and birthday parties and families. And so the portfolio looked very eclectic, for a lack of better way to put it. There was all different ranges of things, from small business owners and, you know, all kinds of different portraits that we were showcasing. So especially when we looked through, and we still have it, but obviously we're not using it anymore, our old Instagram account, if you scroll through, every post was a different style of photography, because we were wanting to balance it out and showcase both of our personalities as we were showing up online. But it made it so much harder to get consistent work because it simply diluted who we were talking to, because we were talking to anyone and everyone who would pay us to take their picture, instead of focusing on our exact audience and our ideal clients with who we would want to be working with. And so when we had the opportunity to look inward and really come back and rebrand ourselves, we decided to, we still work together as a team, but we market as individuals. And so we chose to market, you know, he markets himself as Johnny Baru Media and myself as Kita Zuleta. And so we decided to take on personal brands for it. And man, has it changed our work completely, and practicing what we preach by really honing in on our ideal client and who we're talking to. Now my feed is strictly Jefas, because that's who I want to work with, and that's who I'm talking to, and that's my community. And he's over there having a blast with his athletes and music artists. And so that is where now we've not only been able to like learn, and we understand what branding is and does, but having this major rebrand and now really practicing what we preach as far as changing how we marketed ourselves has completely changed the game for us. And so that's why now more than ever, branding is something that I'm so passionate about, because I'm like, it will change your business. Like, it will definitely make your life easier. When we felt like we were struggling for years to show up online, it's hard enough to show up online and hard enough to say, hey, you know, choose me and pick me and do all of these things. But not knowing who we were talking to and not having that clear message was something that we personally struggled with for years. And so now coming back, it changed everything for us, which is why that much more it doubles down the passion behind wanting to teach how to brand yourself and how to clarify that message, because then you are working strictly and only with the desired clients that you want to work with. And so yeah, that's where the passion for branding comes in. on top of, like there's still so many things. I always loved weddings and things like that, but knowing what we know now and not having had the guidance when we first started, um, wanting to be able to give back to our communities and to our people is what really drives that for us.
I think for a lot of business owners that started maybe like 15 to 10 years ago, there was a lot of learning not just how to market yourself in the online space, but learning the ever changing social media algorithms. And like, there's always like another one being added in, because when I started, so I also used to work with my husband as a wedding photographer. We had our wedding business. And when we first started, Instagram wasn't even out. Like, it was just Facebook and maybe Pinterest. Like, we got married before Pinterest was even huge. And like, when we started growing and trying to figure out how we marketed ourselves, it was like we couldn't keep up. And photography is one of those things that is so interesting, because people know we have a camera and they think we can just take pictures of anything and everything. And it's like, oh, well, take my senior pictures. Like you said, take a picture of a quinceañera, and it's the same as a wedding. So you should be able to do it. And it's the same as like, oh, well, let's get together family photos. You have your camera. And it, like, trying to market yourself, like, yes, we can do all of that. But there were a lot of photographers that I knew starting out, like, had so many Instagrams, like one for families, one for weddings, one for babies, or one for like fun. And it was it was a lot. And so
It was like a portfolio on each page.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then if you were like doing it with a partner, you had your company Instagram, and then you had your separate Instagrams, and it was a lot. And you're right, like, branding is really tricky to figure out when you're starting out. Like, how do you want to present yourself? What do you like? How do you like to show up? But then also, with the ever-changing social media marketing strategies, it is always so nice to have someone who can kind of pull it all together. And I always say, like, that's what a brand photographer does. Like, they will communicate visually what you are trying to show the world, what you're trying to tell the world, how you want to present yourself. And it is so important for, like, especially for Instagram, and even like visually, website, all of the things visual. Like, it's so important to have photographs and visuals that really align to, like you said, the client that you want to attract and work with. So it's interesting to hear you say how you and your husband had to, like, take what you were passionate about and create your own separate brands in order to be more successful, because that is exactly how it happened for my husband and I. We parted ways and are doing our own thing now, and we're like so happy. Like, we are filled with joy. And even though, like, we also enjoy working together, and we still do, because like, when you're in business and you're married, like, it's all like your life. The business, everything is your life. And so as a creative, like, as soon as I started doing what I wanted to do, like, it kind of just clicked. And it was like I was free to just show up as what I wanted. As a business owner, like, if you haven't lived through it, like, it's hard to understand how to build a brand, or like, what are people talking about when they say marketing or whatever. Like, it's hard to, like, understand that. But when you share your story, it brings like those visuals and a better understanding of why branding is important. So I am fascinated by stories, and that's why I love this podcast, because I want to share each individual story. And so I am fascinated by your story and how it has brought you to creating the business that you have, and really highlighting the importance of knowing how you want to show up. And I think the story of you and your husband has really like solidified the importance of making sure that you are presenting yourself in a way that you are attracting the clients that you want in order for you to be able to gain the success that you want.
Yeah, and yes, definitely the success, because obviously we want to be able to provide and put food on the table and be able to be okay. But more than anything, like you said, just being happy. I know that not just in photography, but especially in photography, I feel like there have been so many of those gigs that you say yes to because you just don't want to say no to the opportunity, and but you're not passionate about it. I'm telling you, I was there for at least 5 years where it was just thank you for the work and I'm not going to say no to the opportunity. And opportunities bring more opportunities, but then it's like, oh, do you also do quinceañeras? Oh, do you also do this? And do you also do family portraits? And yes, 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 like we're don't say no to the opportunity. How are we going to say no? um but and it came also from that scarcity mindset of we need the opportunity. How are we going to say no to the opportunities that come our way, right? Like, but now I don't promote anything but brand photography, because that is what I want to do. That is where my heart is. I am passionate about it. I will spend hours with someone planning their photo shoot and I just geek out. Like my cheeks hurt right now. I'm smiling so much just because we're talking about branding. Like that's where my heart is. I am passionate about serving jefas, having to figure out how to navigate the madness that is social media, and helping them know and recognize that really in the end it's how do we want to show up. Like now more than ever, I feel like this social media and showing up online and all the marketing and all the branding strategies that are out there is like the new era of like diet culture, right? Like back, and diet culture is still a thing, right? But it is very dependent on the person selling whatever program they're on. And I feel like it's the same thing now when it comes to social media strategy. Do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that, try this, do videos, jump here, jump there, dance, and whatever, right? Like there is a million different things that someone can do. But and the truth is, just like any diet, if you take it on and you stick with it, it's going to work. So, really, in the end, it's what's going to work for you, what's going to work for your brand. How do you want to show up? What capacity are you at? Because is it ideal for us to be on every single platform and post 3 times a day and repurpose all of our content and make sure that it's trending? But are we full time content creators? More than likely not. And the people that are super successful, that I have a team of 20 that are able to manage all of the platforms, that is fantastic and phenomenal for them to be able to teach us how to be able to show up everywhere. But as most of us being solopreneurs, or not yet at that part of our journey where we have a team strictly for all the different platforms, it's where are you most comfortable showing up? And not just where are you most comfortable showing up, but where are your ideal clients? Where are they? Show up where they are in order for them to be able to see you and become visible for them. So when it comes to that, it's like, let's figure out who you are as a brand. How do you want to show up? Let's try to figure that out first and foremost, so that that way you can stand firm in, this is me. This is who I am. This is who I'm serving. This is who I'm trying to talk to. And at that point, you're able to be happy doing it, what it is that you love, talking strictly to the people you want to work with. Everyone else, the tias, the tios, the chismosos that are just watching just because, they're probably not going to pay for your services. They're probably not your ideal client. So we're over here worrying about showing up because que van a decir, when the person you're talking to is the person who needs your help, who needs your services, who wants to work with you. So if we're able to clarify your messaging, who you are and who you want to work with, and then figure out where are they, and then how comfortable are you showing up, and what's your capacity at. Like if you're not comfortable in front of the camera speaking, then let's create some imagery that doesn't show your face. Let's do just details, and let's find things that are on brand for you and create stock imagery that's on brand for you, right? And show up the way you and your brand is going to be most visible online, whatever that looks like for you. So it's a crazy wave out there, but if there's anything that I like to tell anyone, whether it's my clients or just someone coming in for a consultation, it's figure out what you are most comfortable with. And if you don't have an idea where to start, think about the content that you would enjoy creating the most and watching the most. Like if you like it, start there. Instead of thinking, I need to do all of these things that other people are doing, it's what do you enjoy the most? And more than likely, people are going to resonate with that because they're going to enjoy whatever's coming from you.
You blew my mind because the whole time I'm thinking, like, if you are looking to build a brand or even elevate your brand through marketing, it is so important to work with someone who you, one, can trust, feel comfortable around, and three, feel like they can relate to your lived experiences, because a lot of these mindsets that we as Latinas or people of color are working through, like, it's hard to explain it, one, but sometimes it's hard for us to even know the mindsets that might be holding us back. And it's when you have conversations with people who will understand because they've had to work through those mindsets themselves. Like, it is a game changer when you are trying to present yourself in social media, on social media. And it's something that I didn't realize until I was already in it. I was already building a business. And I think that's why it's so important to highlight other Latine businesses who are going to be partners in helping grow and build the foundation of a business, whether it is a virtual assistant, whether it is a photographer, or someone to help you with marketing or legal, or like, and I'm not saying that you have to have your whole people like only be Latinas or only be people of color, but I do think that it is so important to build that connection and relationship and really feel like you can trust to bring your whole self to the table and to have the conversations that are hard. Because I know that like I've worked with um, business coaches before that didn't get me, that kind of insulted my photography. And it was like I was showing images of Mexico where I was proudly sharing my culture, and they were like, well, that image probably won't do well, it won't sell because of this, this, and this. And they were completely separating the emotional context of that photo. And it was after that session, this was way back in like 2016, 2017, and I right away just cut it off. I didn't even continue coaching services because I was like, okay, I'm not gonna continue my time if they're making me feel unsafe and not being able to bring my whole self to the table. And even though they were like highly spoken of, I'm like, okay, I have to draw the line at someone not being sensitive to my story. And so that's why I always say, like, whoever you're working with, you have to have that relational equity in order for the relationship to operate at its fullest. And it is so important when you're building your business, especially in the creative field, because it is so much of our emotion that is poured into creating the thing. So I love that you just shared all of that you are so passionate about working with the individual and really helping them tell their story, um, and how and like educating them how it would relate to marketing, because a lot of times like the emotional part of our creating and marketing doesn't click. And I have found that with especially with the first gen mindset, like we are having to really relearn what marketing is, because we're told that marketing is salesy and it's slimy and you don't want to be begging, or like all of these negative words associated with just like what you need to do in order to thrive in your business. But it's only associated with this idea of um, salesy, car salesman ish. And I think we're a lot of us are shifting that narrative, and it's really in part people like you who are really pulling out what showing up means and how that relates to marketing. I'd love for you to talk more about that and that aspect of your business.
Well, I feel like absolutely sales is like this scary weird word, especially as a small business owner. Like, we want the sale, right? Because we are excited when someone makes a purchase or hires us, and it's something that is quite frankly necessary for our business to be a business. But uh, that, like you mentioned, the whole car salesman or just being that shady salesman, just got such a bad rap. But in honest and what it really is, that was based off of the unfortunate fact that was there was a lot of lies and untruths that came with those salesmen and that culture, right? Like just saying whatever it took to manipulate the situation in order for someone to make a purchase. And so the difference between a salesman of that caliber and who we are as small business owners is the fact that we do want to make these sales, but we want to be authentic to who it is that we are, which is why it's so important for us to share our stories, to share why we're passionate about whatever it is that we're doing, whether you're making soaps, whether you are, building a community, whether you're a photographer, whether you're doing anything, especially as a service provider. Oh my word. Like, and even with products, like I used to have an Etsy shop for a short season while I was living in Tucson. And even then, I didn't truly understand the shift in branding or the messaging that was. It was just, look at what I'm making and this is a pretty thing, do you want it, but every time that someone purchased something from me, it was, I crochet, and so I made beanies and scarves and made little like swaro pillows and things like that. And so, but even then I was just showing up by showing like, this is what I'm making today type thing. And that's how I just kind of connected with people and then just kind of cheered people on, really. Back when you just kind of tag your Instagram friends or whatnot. But the difference and what I share now about showing up online is really showing up as your whole self, right? And showing up as the human being that you are, because especially as service providers, when you are the person that is providing whatever service it may be, especially if it is a service of a higher price point and it's, above $10. Like it's this thing where people need to know you, like you, and trust you in order to be able to purchase your service or to get to know you prior to taking you on, or trusting you with whatever it is. And so with that, it's where showing up online in this way that is authentic to who we are and sharing who we are as a person, like that is how people get to know you, right? Like, what do you like to eat? Are you a mom? Are you a dog mom? Do you like plantitas? Like, what are your likes and dislikes? Or not so much dislikes, but that comes out too plenty as well. But sharing a bit about ourselves in order for us to be able to be seen, right? And so if our services, if we don't show up, not just I mean just online really, because so much is online based these days, um but when it comes to showing up, I like to tell my clients, like, so much of showing up online is really just opening your storefront and being able to say, flip that sign that says open, and just, if you show up, then people will know that you are open. Like, I had someone that I've known for, I don't know, over 15 years, and just in the past year and a half, as I have changed how I show up online, um she was like, I didn't know you were a photographer. And my first reaction was a little offended, in the sense of, like, how did you not know? I've been doing this for 8 years now. But really, whose fault is that? It's mine. Because she didn't know, because we don't see each other every day. She only knows me via my online presence. And so if I am not online showing up as a photographer, showing my work, showing behind the scenes, showing my camera, or talking about what it is that I do, then the rest of the world isn't going to know. So if we don't show up by saying, hi, this is what I do, even if we're not visual, actually talking to the camera with an introduction, if we don't show up with saying, this is my job title, this is my description, this is how you can work with me, it's going to be very difficult for anyone to know what it is that we do. And so it's trying to change that mentality of sales. Really, what it comes down to is education, and educating our audience on how we can serve them. Because in the end, so many of us walk away with, people need our help, or people get better, or they receive this transformation, or they're so grateful for what it is that we do for them. But it's hard for us to show up thinking we need to just sell online and say, buy from me. But really, if we simply show up by saying, this is who I am, like, I like coffee, do you like your coffee black, or do you like it with milk? Like, do you use sugar, Splenda, or honey? What do you like, it cold, do you like it hot? Simply by getting to know those little human to human connections, like, people relate to people, they don't relate to brands, they don't relate to just a camera, they don't relate to just things. It's the why behind it. Even with product based businesses, so many product based businesses have a why behind why they started making whatever that is. It's, to give back to a certain community, to lift up a different community. They have this passion, their grandma taught them this skill, there's a story behind it. And so unless we share those stories, no one's going to know them. And so that is, as you see, as I get riled up every time, I'm so clearly passionate about, like, just sharing, like, showing up as our true authentic selves as much as we can, as best as we can, and as simply as we can, in order to be able to continue showing up and continuing to, like, flip that sign to say, I'm open, I'm working today, nice to see you, right? Like, because everyone has their own life that they're worried about day to day. So unless they see us consistently showing up, then that's how we're going to be able to get on their radar. And as people see us consistently, they are able to trust us. And as they get to know who we are, they get to like us and they get to know us. And that's what makes it easier for someone to then say, I want to work with that person.
Okay, listeners, you have heard it. You have heard that we need to be sharing our stories,
That
but it is hard.
it is. It is. It is. Still is hard for me. I'm preaching to the choir over here. I will tell you, it is so incredibly hard to show up because there is that que van a decir. There is the all of the emotions. Social media anxiety is real, like, because there are real eyes on us. There are critiques, there are trolls, there's all of, and then there's also critics after pouring um there's critics and crickets after pouring so much time and energy into different posts and showing up. So it is hard. That is something that I will never say it's easy. I even with any strategies or any help that I can provide someone, it's in order to try to simplify it. But just because it's simplified does not make it easy. Just because it's streamlined doesn't make it easy or doesn't remove all of those things. It simply clarifies what direction to go versus listening to all the different strategies and not knowing where to start or where to go. So, yes, it is hard, but we deserve to be seen. You deserve to be heard, and your story should be shared so that others can get to know the amazing person and people that you are.
Yes, what you said about what would people say, like that is always in the back of our heads because of generational trauma of not wanting to be too loud or not wanting to be too anything, and what are people going to say. And so working on that mindset is a constant, especially when you're a business owner and especially when you're wanting to share more vulnerably who you are and your story. But I promise you, it is worth it when you find, like, when you hear just, I'm going to say it, just like I like to hear people's stories because I'm nosy. I want to hear what happened. I want to hear what brought people to where they are. I too need to share because people want to hear my story as well. So, with that, what advice or encouragement would you give to someone who is still like on that fence of like, yes, I want to share my story, but I don't even know where to start or like what people want to listen to? You know, all of that negative self-talk that we give ourselves when we're trying to do something and sit down and start writing. What encouragement or advice would you give to people like that?
Well, um, the first thing would be to be kind to yourself because this journey in general is hard. Life is hard. Um, but defining your brand, defining how you want to show up, that is a difficult process to figure out. It's very introspective. So, kind of like I had one of my clients call it brand therapy because you're still needing to figure out who you are amongst all of your things and then show up online as said brand and business. But the questions that I refer to the most in order to try to simplify it as much as possible is who are you, right? Like that question, I want to say was in the 90s. I forget who it was. ¿Y tú quién eres? Right? Like, who are you? So, what do you do? And then, who do you serve? uh, and where are you located? So who are you? What do you do? Who do you serve? And where are you located? That is the foundation of what is a brand and your story as far as why did you get started. And so if you are able to determine who you are, what you do, who you serve, and obviously you know where you're located, but being able to get to the point where you share your origin story, like what motivated you to start your business, being able to answer those questions then allows you to start putting it on a page, right? One of the things that I recently invited the community to share their stories, which you were highlighted in back for Women's History Month in March, were those exact questions. And really, that's the foundation of any brand. And so, if you're able to share those stories as to what got you to that place and what motivated you to do what it is that you're doing, you can share that a version of that, because obviously there's quite a bit in that story, but in each one of those questions you can elaborate throughout your pieces of content and start giving little snippets of who you are and your story throughout social media, in again whichever format is easiest for you to show up with, but starting to just give pieces of you and pieces of your story online and sharing that insight is what people will start getting to know. When you think of just having met someone, you learn little tidbits and fun facts throughout the out the way. It's not all dumped at once, and one social media post isn't going to tell your entire life story or your entire business story. So if we start sharing little bits and pieces of what the answers to those questions are, then that allows for our audience to start getting to know us. And if we're able to start sharing those parts of our stories, it allows people to stay interested. So even if it's the chismosos, right? Like if they just want to hang out and kind of just get to know you, by getting to know you, and then they get to like you, and then they'll trust you, and then they may want to work with you. So that would be the questions that I would suggest to answer for yourself in order for you to have your brand story, your story lined up as a business, right? Because as a business is very different than our life story. Our life story has a whole lot of waves and different seasons and all kinds of different stuff, right? But when it comes to your business and your brand story, those are the questions that you want to really focus on, because we get to use social media as that free commercial and showing up. If someone sees a post a year ago, they don't remember that they saw it a year ago. They don't remember a post they saw last week. So if we say the same thing over and over, think about those Super Bowl commercials, guys. Like they these companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars or XYZ amount to shoot this one commercial campaign for the Super Bowl, and we get to see those same commercials all year until the next Super Bowl. And so marketing in general is saying the same thing in different ways and different creative ways. So if we're simply telling bits and pieces of our story throughout all of it, it's all us. We sell the same product, we sell the same services. So it's like, what are we doing today? And that is the advice that I would give, is trying to think of it in that manner of slowly sharing and releasing your story out into the world, so that you can be seen and people can get to know you.
So good. So good. This is amazing advice, and I am excited for you. I'd love to know what your big goals are for the year. I know that you are really trying to grow the community, but is there anything else you're excited about?
Well, honestly, I am in a season currently where I am funding my business with what I call a side hustle 9 to 5 job. And my big goal this year is to get to walk away from that job. And so that's my big goal, because it as a creative, and the type of job that it is, it's a 9 to 5 customer service job. It's nothing that I am excited about. My passion's not there, and so it does drain my creativity a little bit and takes the time from what I wish I can do and all of the dreams and visions that I have for this community. So my first goal is to be able to walk away from uh, that job and be able to pour into the community and be able to start doing in-person meetups. But that takes, as you also as a community leader out in your space, like, that takes time and energy and production and coordinating, and you have a space, but I would need to find venues and vendors and organizers. And so that is what I would love to be doing. Oh my gosh, full time even. Like, but I first need to get past this, and this position happened due to almost losing my husband a year and a half ago, and so that's where we are working our way back, not just from the pandemic, but from that health scare. We are still in this rebuilding stage, and so I'm right there with everyone who's in the trenches, building, rebuilding, rebranding, and trying to show up almost as a new business because it's a completely new thing that's happening now. And so I'm in there. I'm in with the hard with everyone else. So those are big goals.
Yes, I think this year is especially, we're seeing a lot of transition. I know it's a hard year financially for a lot of people, and um I've said this before on the podcast, like you go through different seasons of transition, and sometimes like you have to be okay with, like, or I guess as entrepreneurs sometimes we have this idea that it's one or the other. Like it's either one, you're doing your entrepreneurship journey full time, or you're working 9 to 5 full time. And a lot of times there is an overlap. Like even when I was transitioning out of wedding photography, when I started pivoting, it was 5 years of pivot where I had stopped taking wedding clients, but I was still in the wedding industry. And so even though I was not saying that I was a wedding photographer, I still needed to fund the next thing and the next pivot. And so a lot of times, like you said, you see on social media this one thing that is being put out there. And that's why another reason why it's so important to share stories, because then you are so relatable to other people going through the same thing, and you can find uh, encouragement and solace in what you're going through together. But um, I thank you for sharing vulnerably that part of your story, because this is a year that I have been talking with a lot of people that are going through transition and pivots and trying to figure out what's next, and while also healing from hurt, whether it's like being let go from a job, or um, trying to figure out, like, there's a lot of health issues that people are dealing with, and it's just a lot. And so when you have community, like it's like you get to look forward to those times where you can get together and just be and come as you are. um, so I am so thankful for what you're doing and the community that you're building. I'm so thankful for this conversation. You shared so much, and I hope that my listeners will listen again to know that it is scary to share your story, but it is very much needed um, to form that connection and relationships with other people.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for having me. This has been such a joy. And I didn't think I'd be teaching so much about social media and marketing today, but I'm just so grateful for the space and the opportunity. And thank you for being a part of Cafecito Con Jefas and just showing up and allowing yourself to be seen and just being as well with us. So I'm so grateful for you and for this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'd love for you to share. I'm sure people are wanting to know how they can join this Cafecito con Jefas. I forgot to ask earlier for you to share all your socials where people can go see your stuff and connect with you. Why don't you share all the things?
Awesome. Well, on my website, I have a page called All the Links. So if I miss anything, literally all of my links are there. But on Instagram, my branding, photography, and strategy page is Quita Zuleta Photo, and my community page is Cafecito con Jefas. And that is where you can find the link also to sign up for the email list, where you receive an invitation directly into your inbox to be able to show up. And as you mentioned before, it's a weekly co working space. It's an hour where we work in silence, but we have our screens on so we know we're not alone, and we just have of our coworkers supporting us. And then at noon, we're able to hang out for the last 30 minutes and introduce ourselves and connect. And it's just a great time. You're more than welcome to come. I'd love to have y'all there. And you can find me on Instagram, or my website again is quitazuleta.com.
Yay! This has been such a joy to chat with you and connect with you further. So thank you so much for your time and willingness to share.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, and I will see you in the next Cafecito Con Jefas.
Yes, see you then.
All right, bye.
Bye.
So, if you need support with building and growing your brand, schedule a consultation with her to find out how she can help and be part of your journey. And look out for her podcast launching soon. Okay, amigos, there'll be a new episode every Tuesday, so after you listen, feel free to take a screenshot to post on Instagram and tag @Elevating La Cultura, or send me a DM. You can also comment on this YouTube video if you're watching online. I always like to hear from people and how they resonate with the stories that I share. So leave a review on Apple Podcasts so we can get more ears listening to these stories and we can continue elevating La Cultura. And if you haven't yet, join the Facebook group where we can continue the conversations we have on the podcast. And sometimes I go live spontaneously, so if you're wanting another way to connect with me and go deeper on the episodes, join us on Facebook. All right, enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening, y nos vemos next week. Bye.